You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, folks, the big day is officially here. It is NHL Draft Day, at least round one, rounds 2 to 7 coming up tomorrow from the Peacock Theater here in Los Angeles. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill with you for the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take, presented by Bet365. And you hear the voice off the top. Should mention and reference Isaiah Mustafa will be introducing the LA Kings draft pick tonight. He's the voice guy for our show, Rosie.
Yeah, more first rounders, signing bonus babies coming at you. Yeah, too bad the Leafs don't have one. I'm not that interested, to be honest, because I'm really biased towards one specific team in this league. But yeah, that's neat, I suppose, for everybody else.
Man, I was walking around yesterday around the arena. There was like a media reception from 6 to 8 yesterday, and saw a lot of the prospects. They look young. Like, they look like first year high school. Yet these guys could be national leaguers in the next, 1 to 2 years?
I know. I've said before on the show, I have a theory about these kids, and there's like something depleting their testosterone or something, but I'll probably get in trouble for saying stuff like that. But
True.
Maybe it was just my perspective or perception when I was a kid looking at like the junior hockey players. I swear they were just like lumberjacks with beards and stuff, and now all rosy cheeks. But if you go back to, I don't know, the 90s and the drafts and, you know, Matt Sundin and some of they were kind of little baby faces around there too. So it is funny. I think it's a sign of us just getting older perhaps. But yeah, these kids look mighty young to be drafted to the show.
Big day, big night ahead for a lot of these kids, and that's the big thing with this decentralized draft. How different it's going to look, we'll find out coming up tonight. Don't forget the Sheet Draft Special as well, coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, with Jeff Merrick and special host Pierre McGuire. That should be a lot of fun. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question, comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. Man, we've just been waiting. When are the Maple Leafs going to do something, Rosie?
Dude, we go over the rundown for this show, and I'm like, so just different language of everything from yesterday. Like, Treliving pops on, says a couple things. It's, man, we're grasping for info here, but it's a bit of a waiting game. And you know, between the playoffs and the draft / July 1, that's exactly what it is, kind of a waiting game. Normally you'd have some signings or some extensions or that type of thing, but just not with the way things line up in Leafland is that going to happen. So yeah, patiently waiting for some news to drop, which I'm fairly confident there will in the next handful of days.
We got to clear something up. Do I got a tan, Rosie? People in the chat saying I look a little crisper today.
I think your hung titties and your eyes are all bloodshot.
Are they?
Yeah, you do look like you got some sun. Possible. But you do look like you got it. So not to break news on here that you don't want, but there was a nice lady yesterday who you met at an establishment. You were saying she had a Porsche in the parking lot, wanted to take you to another establishment in LA. Sounds like a hell of an experience, but her taillight wasn't functioning properly and you didn't want to go with her. Oh my God, what an all-time dad move. Fuck, was I laughing at that. I think you
I was more
opportunity there, bud.
I was more concerned about my safety, and the best part of the story that I didn't tell to you and producer Vic, she asked me if I wanted to drive said vehicle, and I said that is not a good idea.
Oh,
and also,
the plot thickens. Smart.
Your
See?
your tail light's out too. I did lead with that though. What the fuck's going on with your tail light?
Is your license current right now? Oh man, I laughed. But hey, for people that say that we swear on the show and kids are watching, there's a lesson. You don't get in anyone's car, even a pretty LA blonde with a Porsche, if you've had alcoholic beverages. Good for you, Nikki. I'm proud now instead of making fun of you.
Always learning from Jay Rosehill. I love that. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. I thought it was so interesting. And as we did the show yesterday, Mark Leach, director of amateur scouting, coming over from Dallas, speaks to the media for, I think, the first time. We really haven't seen him in the public eye. And Brad Treliving speaks on all the hot button topics. And I thought it was interesting because he said absolutely nothing in that span of talking. Like we got nowhere, anywhere. I will say, and you saw my tweet last night, it sounds like they're inching closer on something with Matthew Knies. And I think a big thing that has helped things along is the JJ Peterka extension with Utah. So again, we've been consistent with saying this, Rosie, since November. It sounds again like 3 to 5 years, probably 5 years, and around 7 to maybe just higher than 8, like somewhere in that threshold is likely where we're going to see this extension announced. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but they're inching closer, which is great news on that front.
Oh, good. I thought for a second you're talking about JT there. Yes. I mean, if it started with a 7, man, at 5 years, I'd be thrilled, man. I'm obviously high on Matthew Knies. I know the Leafs probably want to get him locked down for as long as possible. And his side, they want to maximize their earning power over the coming decade, basically. And I think the best way to do that is to, get some, like, you really haven't made that much money yet. He's on an entry-level contract. There's escrow, there's taxes out the ass. He's not swimming in cash right now. You sign a little 5-year deal at that amount of money. Hopefully from the fans' standpoint, the last 3 years of that, he'll be worth more and you're getting value from him. And on his side of the plate, that's some stability, right? That's some, hey, I'm setting myself up for the future. I'm going to be wealthy the rest of my life. It's a lot of money. And then after that, if his career pops off and he becomes a superstar, the captain of this team, or who knows what happens, the sky's the limit for him. And if something happens, you have the security of that 5-year deal. I like it. I hope they get it done. And all signs kind of point to them inching closer and closer, which, you'd expect. Maybe 5 days ago, there's some reports where I'm like, geez, is this going to be like contentious? Are the Leafs digging their heels in? Are they starting to second guess their future with both Knies and Tavares? But now, by all accounts, it sounds like they're real close. And I like to hear that. I said yesterday, I want both of those guys back. And I feel like we can get them at a number that makes everyone happy. And luckily, we have some cap space to do so.
You think they'll toss us a few bucks if this gets resolved into the finish line, just for helping things along last week when we reported on the show that the two sides were far apart? Because ever since then, there seems to be progress on the Knies front, which is great news.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on any of that.
Imagine.
Yeah, I like with Tree too. It's funny hearing them talk. Like, the one thing I took out of it, which doesn't really mean anything, but in this market especially, you wait for a postseason press conference and there's a buzzword, right? And it was DNA change. And God, doesn't matter what show you watch, podcast, turn on the TV, talk to people on the golf course, wherever, it's, they're going to change the DNA. They're going to change their DNA. And it's all anyone says. And then Treliving's like, gee, you could tell he's like, God, did you run with that one? Like, just so you know, that doesn't mean blow the whole thing up. That just means, yeah, we're going to bring in some different players, but we're also going to try to adopt a different mentality. And that's what Craig Berube's job is in the fall, I believe. And it makes me kind of chuckle because when we get annoyed that these guys are pretty reserved and give the, let's be honest, bullshit interviews after that are absolutely meaningless. I literally don't listen to them anymore. It's all these, token phrases and whatnot. The reason is because if you go off script one little thing and say something that's kind of buzzworthy, whammy, everyone does it. And Treliving, he kind of almost had a chuckle being like, yeah, you really took off with that one. But to be expected, it's kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, what do you say, right? Everyone knows where everyone stands. Everyone knows what's coming and what might come. And until it happens, there's really nothing else to say. It's kind of a holding pattern, which is kind of shitty for doing a daily podcast.
Yeah, you're right. Very, very tedious stuff right now as you wait for the first, bomb to drop or the shoe to drop here in Leafs Nation. But you're right. On the Treliving front, he clarified his change the DNA comment for May. It's not about airlifting in 20 bodies. You have to continue to evolve. It's a mindset as much as anything. Obviously, there will be roster change. You need everything to be successful: skill, talent, competitiveness. And again, a lot of this is a GM being a GM. It's funny, not much has come out from Leafs Nation. And I was reminded, it's only been a couple years under Brad Treliving. It is the time where the Leafs seem to be connected to everything and everyone. JJ Peterka, who knows, Dobson, Byram, you're going to hear some names associated with the Maple Leafs right now. And just curious, I really want to know what happens first. Is it a John Tavares extension? Is it some clarity on the Knies front? I mean, I guess that was big news yesterday, but not so much that Mitch Marner is going to market. We've known that for a while. But yeah, I think the major takeaways were the Knies and Tavares conversation for sure.
Yeah, I kind of think the Tavares thing will get done first if I had to bet.
Yeah.
And I think he even kind of alluded to the fact that there is a time crunch there, not as much with Knies, albeit just being at July 1, being able to be offer sheeted is kind of like, eek. But I think teams have got, a lot on their plate come July 1. It's not like 12:01 on July 1. It's going to be, and he's going to get offer sheeted if he's not signed. So again, Treliving alluded to that being not as time sensitive as the Tavares one, perhaps. So I wouldn't be surprised if that came across the ticker first. But yeah, sooner than later, I'd like to see them both wrapped up. It'll be interesting. So also with the offer sheets, if a team offer sheets him and he's just like, no, not interested, is that news, do you think? Is that public knowledge? Is that out there in the space? Or do you have to get like an insider to break that and decipher if it's real? Or is that public knowledge, a team getting offer sheeted? Do you know?
It depends on a lot of moving factors. Like somebody would have to leak it. Maybe it's the Knies camp saying, yeah, I was approached with an offer sheet. And I think all of it is a leverage tactic too. I think from the Knies point of view, you really don't want much out there. You want to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. I think it's a tactic utilized later on. If you recall, we always like to reference the infamous Mitch Marner, the Columbus offer sheet. That somehow found its way into the media light. And it never came to fruition because he never signed that offer sheet, but it was used later, I think, as a tactic to get that deal across the line with the Maple Leafs. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I would do the same thing if I was in his shoes. I just hope that they have a number in mind that they both are happy with and want to get to and will get to kind of at the 11th hour. And that deal will come across everyone's plate, hopefully. And I would hope that Knies isn't going to hold out and wait for an offer sheet to use it as leverage to get maximum money here, but that's what players do, and that's well within their rights to do. I just from this side of it, I'm not thinking like a player. I'm thinking like a fan and hoping we can get him as cheap as possible. Yeah. But again, I have this feeling they both have a number in their mind that they're going to be happy with, and I'm sure as time ticks down, they'll get to the point where they're shaking hands.
I thought you'd be all over this the other night. Knies is such a beauty. Did you catch what he was up to earlier this week?
I never did. No, what's he up to?
Moral support. Ella Huber, his better half, was drafted, and he was there by her side.
What? Who's she?
Stud.
Hockey player?
Look her up. Yeah, I believe he met her at school. I don't know the whole
really,
story, but
they got a hell of a program there in Minnesota. She got drafted to the PWHL.
Correct. And Matthew Knies was there. It's funny. I saw the initial video and I'm like, somebody tagged Knies or said Knies was there, but like you can see him. And I was like, I looked right past it, but what a great boyfriend. What an absolute stud. I'm not shocked at all. There for the moral support, Matthew Knies.
Oh, I had no idea he was dating a girl that played hockey. That's, man.
Dude, imagine dating that stallion, eh? What a man Matthew Knies is, man. Just what an absolute beauty that guy is.
Cute couple. Checking out our Instagram. Cute couple. Congratulations, girl. Get it. Yeah, that's neat, man. Minnesota stud program. They were in my conference when I played at Duluth at UMD, and the girls team is studly as well. So that's kind of neat. I wonder how that's going to work. Both of them playing a pro hockey schedule in different cities. Where'd she go? Did you manage to memorize that?
I missed that. We should get her on the podcast because we can't get Matthew on. Might as well get his girlfriend on. Yeah. I'll hunt her down. I know Knies' family listens to this podcast. They watch this podcast. If you want to get Matthew's better half on the show, let's do it.
I'll just reach out to Mama Bear. She'll help me out. She's a fan, apparently. That was too funny that night.
Do it.
Yeah, good for them, man.
But yeah, I caught that the other night.
Caught what the other night?
Not much cooking on your end? Yeah. No, I said I caught that the other night. That's it. That Knies' better half was drafted. But again, moving on. Didn't catch much. Like Brad Treliving spoke, but he didn't say much. We talked about the Marner stuff. We talked about the Tavares stuff. Like I'm with you. I think the first thing that's going to happen is an extension for John Tavares. As we talked to Jeff Merrick yesterday, I'd be shocked if we get to July 1, John Tavares doesn't have a new contract. And it sounds like somewhere around 4 years, $5 million per. If that's the case, just think about what's come out even in the last month. I think that's a win. If it's around $5 million per season, I'd be very happy with that. Rosie, would you?
Yeah, damn right. Me too. I would be. Again, and it depends what John wants to do. I mean, people already, when he signed that contract, if you go back to when he came to Toronto, everyone was going to be like, man, 11 mil AAV. Like the last couple of years of that, he's not going to be worth nothing. Like we'll be shelving him. And maybe he wasn't at $11 million, but when you're approaching 40 goals, there's not a lot of guys in the league that do that. So he served his purpose by all accounts. And I don't know what the future holds. Nobody does, but John Tavares is capable of playing good hockey. You know what you're getting with him. He does things the right way. He's good for, he's good by leading by example. Like he's an unbelievable professional. And I think Knies was living at his house when he got there. Stuff like that makes a difference in the locker room. And, obviously he was really courteous and everything else when his C was passed on to Austin Matthews. He handled that like a champion, and that could have been a shitstorm that it absolutely wasn't. It was like a PR dream, and I think that's in large part due to the way John handled it. But as a centerman, we're not that deep, and we don't have a 2C, 3C, depending on what John is. And if you lose him, I just see this gaping hole that's not going to be filled, and it's going to be a problem. I want to get him locked up, and if it's at 5 for what 4 years are we thinking here? By the third and fourth year, I think he could slide into 3, which we talked about yesterday, which I think would be a really nice fit. And if you can, use the cap space that we have to get kind of a stud centerman below the first line, then all of a sudden you're looking deep again. And I think with all these talks about defensemen, this and that, I'm like, I don't care. The forwards are our problem. They have been for years. They tried to address it by loading up with studs. That didn't work. And now I'd like to see them spread the wealth a little bit and get some depth up front.
By the way, producer Vic's a lifesaver. Ella Huber was drafted by Boston. Toronto had the next pick. Imagine that connection in Toronto. Knies and his better half both playing pro hockey in Toronto. That'd be sweet. But Boston, of course it's Boston.
That would be kind of interesting. I don't know. Best of luck to them. I don't know if they can hack that for how long when they have the schedule that is. How many games do they play?
This guy's doubting the relationship already.
I just know that when you're going to college, everything's hunky-dory and it's great and you're on the same page and you're doing the thing, and then you go off and life branches off. It's tough to keep that going, but time will tell. I wish them both the best of luck. They look like a cute little couple on Instagram there.
A couple people pointing out in the chat, you're just butthurt. Your boy is off the market.
I didn't even know he was dating anybody. I should have looked into that before I got my heart committed. Life goes on.
Yeah, no, that is a bromance beyond belief, Jay Rosehill and Matthew Knies. I should mention as well, I think the unique thing about these drafts, I know it's a bit different being decentralized this year, but running into some fascinating, interesting hockey people. I forgot to tell you, I ran into Ben Danforth's agent last night, and I was just glowing about him. I'm like, Rosie, I did say this. I was like, Rosie can pinpoint talent very, very well. He had some great things to say, Matthew Knies, and you had some very great stuff to say about Ben Danforth too. And that's high praise. Honestly, I've worked with you long enough, and you can assess talent in players and individuals pretty quickly. And I will say those are the two that stick out for me. You obviously called that with Matthew Knies and Ben Danforth too here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's talent, but like character, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm perceptive or judgmental or what, but when I talk to a person, the way they conduct themselves, I guess I think it's more judgmental. Like, who's this guy and what's he all about? And you can tell right away what kind of stock they come from. And yeah, I saw it with Knies and saw it with Danforth too. I just like the way the guys talk, and I mean that's what those draft interviews that they do are all about, and they're kind of hilarious sometimes. I think McDavid's draft interview with the Oilers came out a couple of days ago. I was watching that, and it's just funny to do those things and to see the questions they ask. And I put myself in the shoes of the player and the management. Like, what would you ask? What would you want to hear? And you hear those funny stories about teams asking outlandish questions, right? Just to see the reaction on the guy and see how they handle it. And things like that would be fun. And I feel like Danford's a guy who would pass that kind of a test with flying colors. And Cowan too, playing for London, winning recently and always being part of a high-end team. Obviously they have a lot of media training and stuff, and you can see that. But from times I've seen him speak in the past to when we just saw him, a handful of weeks ago and interviewed him, it feels like he has a level of maturity, and I'm sure it's because of the experiences he's gone through this year, that you kind of notice too. And I put a lot of stock into that stuff, man. Like when you look at the teams that win and you look at the teams that fall short, and I've been a part of a lot of teams and I've been teammates with a lot of guys, and it's kind of why I turn my back to the number crunching things and the money ball side of hockey. It's like that only tells a certain layer of the story. You get guys in a room and put them against adversity. There's a lot of different ways that can go. And some players just, players that we know of and players that we've spoken of, they fold and they just don't have the stuff to get through that and say, oh, here's something that's difficult. I'm putting the fire right now. Watch me cook, or else watch me melt. And I like talking to young players saying, I like this kid, because I've talked to guys that are up and comers and that are high picks and got all the numbers on the piece of paper that you could ask for. And I talk to her, I'm like, oh my God, like, who raised you, So it's an interesting time with all these draft picks coming out and young kids starting their career. It's something to look at.
Got to commend the team around him too. They've been great with him, and really, really excited about Ben Danford over the next couple of years. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I did text you a few times last night. I was at the media reception. You just don't know who you're going to bump into. And who do I bump into? Your former teammate, Mike Komisarek. What an absolute beauty. I spent some time just chatting, chilling with Commie. Great dude. Works for the Canucks.
Yeah, he is. He's working for the Knies. I think I heard that. He is. It's funny because he's a monster. He's a Polish guy. Clydesdale, like Clydes was his nickname around the room because he's just built like a Clydesdale. Legs, just he's a beast and nicest guy too. Big old smile on him. I remember in fitness testing, I think it was the first year we were in the MasterCard Center, which is now the Ford Performance Center. But they're doing a Wingate test. It's on one of those old Monarch bikes that's blue and white. And it's a 30-second test, and it's probably made more people puke than anything else that you could do in the gym. And it's insane that it's only 30 seconds long. But you crank it up to full RPM, and then they just start dropping weights, and they are just screaming in your face, and you are pushing as hard as you can. It is the longest 30 seconds of your life. But Como's just ripping, and his legs are just like bulging out of these shorts, and he is just cranking at the highest RPM, and the bike exploded. Like pieces fell off of the bike and the whole thing blew, and he almost fell off of it, and he just destroyed the bike. And everyone's like, I think just put down like pass the test kind of thing. But he's a funny dude. And I saw him in not this past year, but the one before. I went to Augusta.
He did say that.
Some of the Masters, and then I just heard Rosie, and I'm like, oh my God, who on earth could this possibly be down in Georgia? And Como is standing there smiling, so we caught up really quick. That's funny to see that you ran into him. All-time good guy, even though we did fight each other in practice.
No, you're right. That is true. But just seems like a consummate pro, probably a really good teammate, very classy, very character-oriented. And yeah, he did tell me that story about running into you a couple years back. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Meantime, I know a lot of people want us to talk about the current team. Let's be honest, folks, not much cooking. I will say the one name I'm starting to hear a bit more the last couple of days, Rosie, is Morgan Rielly. I don't know where the conversation is. Mixed reviews in terms of what people are telling me, but it sounds like his name is out there. I don't know what that means, because ultimately he guides his own fate. Like if he wants to leave Toronto, he can, but he's got the full no move. But I think that's got to be on our minds, especially as we get closer and closer to Tuesday, especially a name like Aaron Ekblad's not re-signed. I think that would make a lot of sense if Ekblad did come in, hypothetically. I do expect the Maple Leafs to maybe sniff around on Ekblad, at least inquire. But Morgan Rielly, I think, a name to watch for over the next week here.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. 873 games, all for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, he's very much rooted in Toronto, Morgan Rielly, and he's done some good things here. There's no question. I know there's been a level of frustration from his end and from the fans' end in the last couple of years. One thing that's positive with Morgan Rielly is in the playoffs, he kind of tends to maybe have some of his best work. But if there was a way to move that money out, again, with the back end being what it is, I would be up for it. If Morgan Rielly could move out instead of Carlo, I would be interested in that. Again, by all accounts, talking to guys that have played with him, Morgan Rielly is a great dude, great teammate, great person, great everything. And I know his roots are deep in Toronto, but maybe it could be time for a change. And I don't know how Treliving would go about that. Obviously, you're putting his name out there and floating it, and people would consider it. I don't know who would jump on Morgan Rielly at $7.5 million if there'd have to be some retained salary, but you retain too much salary and then get Ekblad at what he's going to command. All of a sudden you're eating up some of that money. And again, I don't really feel like the D is what you need to address the most, but an interesting thing for sure. And yeah, I've noticed there's a little bit of a buzz quietly behind the scenes about Morgan Rielly as well.
And that's a tough one. You're right. I think doing this podcast, we've been consistent and been pretty damn supportive of Morgan Rielly. I just think everything we hear behind the scenes, it's tough to rag on the guy, but I do feel like we're at a crossroads where it could be time for a change of scenery. But the unfortunate nature, you're right. I think it would be a very difficult conversation to have, a guy who's approaching 1,000 games all in that outfit. But I just think finding a match trade-wise will be difficult because he controls where he goes. And maybe it's as simple as having a conversation and saying, hey, are there destinations you would be open to? Would you go back home to Vancouver? But I think on paper, the two that stick out for me that could be logical matches because of the contracts potentially coming back are Edmonton and Pittsburgh, if you want to have a convo about Darnell Nurse or Erik Karlsson. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to it, but you're right. Unfortunately, he's coming off a really, really shitty year, and I just don't know how you'd find value in that type of trade. And on top of that, you got to replace the guy. But I do think if you're going to make a move like that, if you're going to execute on it, whatever way you want to phrase it, it has to be before July 1, because you don't want to get to free agency and you lose a guy like Rielly, and then you run out of spots to try to fill that role, right?
Yeah, there's just so many moving parts to it, like you mentioned. First one being, you have to find a suitor for that, and then you have to find a deal that actually works, and then you have to go to Morgan Rielly and, in a roundabout way. And that's always delicate because, again, Rielly does hold the cards, and he's in control of his destiny, and he can decide whether something's going to happen or not. And if you go to him and present this option and he's not interested at all, now there's that relationship problem where, I'm supposed to be a Maple Leaf. You said you trusted me. You have this contract. I got the no move for a reason, and now you're shopping me. But at the end of the day, I think both parties would understand that it is a business, and Morgan Rielly has been in the league and in the business long enough that he will understand that. It's just so many moving parts, and a lot would have to go right to make that happen. I think the other options that we've talked about are a lot more likely and realistic than a Morgan Rielly, but never say never. A lot stranger things have happened.
At the very least, something to monitor over the next couple of days at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I almost forgot to bring up, did you see who's announcing the St. Louis Blues pick? Have you talked to Braden about this?
Brado? No. Who's announcing the St. Louis Blues pick?
One of your favorites, Nikki Glazer.
Oh, yeah? I do like her. Yeah. She's a funny chick. She was... I follow a lot of comedy people on
She's hilarious,
Instagram. Man. I'm huge for, there's not a good stand-up, special is just, there's not much that beats it. Nikki is killing it. She's the top female stand-up comedian by far. And I've known that for quite a while, but that roast of Tom Brady just really put her on the map. She's absolutely killing it and seems to be everywhere. So that's pretty cool. Is there a connection with her in St. Louis, or is it just here's a famous person to announce our first pick?
I'm guessing she's from that area. Somebody in the chat or producer Vic, do you want to piggyback off me there? That's my best guess because I was stunned. We talked about it off the top. Our guy Isaiah Mustafa, who's a big LA Kings fan, will be announcing their pick. We talked about it yesterday. Bailey from WWE is doing San Jose's pick. So, from my understanding, across the league with this decentralized drafts, these teams won't be here. Their PR people will be here, but we're going to see some like celebrity people come in the mix. It's unfortunate the Leafs don't have a first round pick. I'd be curious to see who they picked. I think Adam Copeland would make the most sense, but we're in Tinseltown, maybe Bieber, but they don't have a pick. So who cares?
Beeb seems to be a little off the rails lately from what I've seen. I think he's got more going on than needing to show up to announce a Leafs pick, but possibly. Remind me on what is different about this draft. It's at a place in LA with a podium and a mic. Bettman and everybody's there, all the media, but the GMs themselves aren't there, and there's no crowd, and it's not an event like it has been in the past.
No,
correct?
so there's a crowd. Like I'm going to the draft tonight. There's a crowd. I believe 80 to 90 of the top prospects are here, something around that. A lot of league personnel are here. Bill Daly's here. Commissioner Bettman's here. Like the NHL is here, but the teams in their war room specifically. The teams in the war room specifically, like for example, Toronto, I believe will be at a MasterCard center. They'll be piped in, and there'll be a lot of like VR and stuff like that. It's a little different from what I understand. This is the only year it's going to happen. I think they're going back the other way next year. So
yeah, I guess Bettman's cruising around going, "See, I told you this was going to suck." But
exactly.
I remember. I guess I'm remembering now. You know, in the past, the general managers were like, our hair is on fire right now, flying around, dicking around. It's 2024 at the time. Can we not do this remotely? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, now you're doing it. It's kind of annoying because, you know, it's fun to see those war rooms on the table or on the floor. Sorry, the tables on the floor. And I imagine it'd be fun to, you know, with the rumors going around, and you'd be watching Vegas's table and Carolina's and Toronto's, and people are walking around and they're sitting there, and I'm sure they're holding their little piece of paper over their mouth as they're talking. And that's kind of an interesting layer to it. So to take that away, yeah, I could see why it would kind of be like, what was the point of that? I guess just to appease the management of the teams. But I imagine it'll probably go back to business as usual next year is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, my favorite part of these drafts, quite frankly, is like the trade activity. And I've been to a lot of these. You show up a couple hours before and you just show up in the arena. And this year it's at Peacock Theater. It's not even in an arena, but all the GMs are just talking on the floor, and you're just like eavesdropping. Like there's a gate set up, and like all the media just stands there, and like so-and-so's talking. It's cool. It creates a buzz. But I will say, it seems like there's a lot of shit happening, man. Like Noah Dobson's the name we're watching right now. And how does that pertain to the Maple Leafs? It sounds like Montreal is hot and horny over this guy, and I think it could happen here. It sounds like Columbus or Montreal for Noah Dobson. Montreal's got the assets. Imagine Dobson with Lane Hudson as a pairing in Montreal. But there's a lot of moving parts to this. I mean, it's just not Leaf specific, but it just seems like a lot of names are out there, and I think it's because of the shallow free agent class, too, that we're witnessing something like that. There's been a lot of talk at the very least.
Yeah, I wonder what the stats are. Is the trade activity heavier when it's a shallow draft class or a really deep one?
So.
That's one thing I'd like to see the numbers on. But yeah, just checking Dobson out, young in his prime or approaching his prime. I think that defensemen don't really develop their prime until 26, 27 years old, 28 even. Just the nature of the position, very difficult. I think you got to give those guys, he's 25 years old, 6'4". Yeah, that would be something else on the blue line. Again, I just wish there was some more depth up front with some of these rumors that are going on, because I would like to see what happens. I'm excited. I was kind of blah, like expecting not a whole hell of a lot, but I just feel like something's cooking and something's going to come down the barrel. Until it does, it makes it difficult. Our chat, I ask you, what do you want us to talk about today? It's probably the most difficult show I've ever done is today, where there's literally, usually we find 3-4 things to get into and to deep dive into, but between yesterday and today and the day before, it's tough sledding, man. It's an absolute holding pattern right now.
I got something for you. What did you think of what Darren Ferris, Mitch Marner's agent, had to say yesterday, Pierre LeBrun? He said, as per the rules, we're only permitted to speak with teams beginning July 1st. At that time, prospective teams will have the opportunity to speak with Mitch directly. Following those conversations, Mitch will make an informed and thoughtful decision. Wow.
Like, I imagine they'll have
Nobody's
a room.
talking, Rosie.
Yeah,
Nobody's
of course
talking
not.
right
Of
now.
course not. But officially, I imagine they'd have a room, open it up to all these teams. They'd have their time slots. Mitch would be sitting there, maybe with a little kitten in his hands or something, and they'd come and peddle their idea to Mitchie, and he'd sit there and go, well, I just want to make sure I'm taken care of properly because what I just went through is not going to happen again, or something like that. And it's like, oh God, I'd like to be a fly on the wall for some of that. I'm kidding, of course. Good guy. It's just, I just would like to know what he's interested in, what his priorities are right now. Obviously, he wants to get paid. He's going to get paid, but what it looks like as far as the deal set up and with who and where he slots in and how he complements a team is going to be interesting to watch. And of course, come October and puck drop, it's going to be really interesting to see how it starts unfolding.
What would your reaction be if Marner's contract goes down with Vegas specifically or Dallas, and you find out that number starts with a 12? What would your reaction look like?
I would just think that he really wanted out of here, right? And even if he has to burn some bridges, he was going to do that. And I just keep going back to like the Rantanen deal and the deals that we've heard happen in the past, which would have just like exponentially helped the Maple Leafs organization as you bid farewell to a player who's been here a long time. It would have been so much more amicable as far as his legacy and the way people think of him and remember him. If he left us with some assets. I understand as well that there was some hype around the team this year, obviously, some expectations of them being able to do some things that they haven't done in the past. And inevitably, they went 7 games against the Florida Panthers, the best team in the world for the past many years, in many people's opinion. And there's proof of it with the cups they have and the final they've been to. And I get him wanting to make a run with them and one more push. And we always talk about like the allure of even coming to Toronto would be the chance to win a cup and what that would do for people. So I get why he said, no, I want to make a run here with the Leafs and see what we can do. And, it's his right to test out free agency as well. And it doesn't happen all the time where you're at the top of your game, career season, get to test free agency in your absolute prime. Like, it's a sweet spot for him. And it's exciting to go into free agency, and he has the right to do so. Unfortunately, the dust he leaves behind in Toronto is, empty cupboards, and he could have absolutely left us with some pretty sweet acquisitions, but he chose not to do that. And whether it's fair or not, his legacy will probably suffer because of that.
Yeah, that's fair. And it really, by the day, sounds more and more like Vegas, although nobody's talking, right? It sounds like Vegas is going to be very eager on July 1st at noon Eastern time to speak to the representatives of Mitch Marner. And automatically you think about like how that money is going to work out from the Vegas perspective, from what I understand. And it's been out there. I don't know if Alex Pietrangelo plays a game this year in the NHL. On top of that, there's been a lot of speculation that names like Barbashev and William Karlsson, I don't know if those guys are out there anymore. I don't think they were ever out there. I don't know if they've been assured that they're not going anywhere, but I think there's a possibility of that. And the one name I think that could make sense is Nicolas Roy, who's a right-handed shooting center. And any center, I think, is going to be linked to the Maple Leafs. But I think that's like the unique draw to all this is, maybe Mitch Marner ends up in Vegas, but could the Leafs capitalize on that and pick up one of these Vegas guys in a trade, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, do you mean as far as signing rights, or are you talking just
no? I think we're getting like I know it's been out there like a sign and trade. Like,
I know, I think it's kind of.
I know we're getting close to 2. Yeah, like the 8th year. I don't know if that really matters. It doesn't even sound like Marner's going to sign a full-term contract, which would be 7 years. But the sign and trade, I think you're getting the most value. Maybe they trade his rights. If they traded his rights, and again, he would have to waive his no trade clause. How ridiculous is that? And maybe he's not open to that. Like we just talked about the pettiness leaving Toronto. He's not open to that because he knows Toronto would get an asset, but you're looking at like a 3rd or 4th round pick. I'm talking specifically like outside of Marner going there, completely different scenarios, but the Leafs trading for somebody on Vegas to create cap space for them.
Yeah, and I believe they have to do that if they're going to get Mitch. Yeah, it's funny how he could, where he goes might, with the contract he's going to get, most teams don't have that just wide open waiting in the jaws. So there's going to be people needing to unload, and with the potential of getting a Mitch Marner and his 102 points that don't grow on trees, very skilled player in his prime, obviously, people are probably willing to offload assets that you didn't think would come up for grabs, basically, in order to get a Mitch Marner. So it might be kind of interesting how in his wake the Leafs will be picking up potentially what a team has to offload to get a Mitch Marner.
And lastly, before we wrap, do you have any comment on Masai Ujiri? That's a big story in these parts today. Is the president of the Toronto Raptors? They're parting ways. I mean, just a couple months after Brendan Shanahan, if that. And so it seems like we're developing a trend under Keith Pelley. Doesn't need a president in the mix.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe Pelley just wants to be a little bit more hands-on or have a more direct connection. Sometimes, I mean, there's schools of thought, right? Like the more hockey minds or basketball minds in the Raptors case you have around you, the more someone could shine some light on something that maybe you would have missed if you were on your own, or get you thinking from a different perspective, or open a window in your mind that you might not have been able to open yourself. And that can be beneficial. But on the same token, sometimes there's too much noise, too many opinions, too many sergeants, and you want to streamline that and say, who's making the decisions? I've hired this guy to go and build a team. He answers directly to me, and I talk directly to him. Sometimes there's some value in that, I would imagine, in those situations. And it sounds like Pelley is going down that road, saying, I want more access. I want it to be direct. I want it to be less convoluted and complicated. Interesting. So they're making some moves at the Raptors level as well. Makes me think of that kid drafted yesterday. What a dickhead, man. He goes first round to the Raptors, correct? Stands up and can't even hide his disappointment. And then it says, like, fuck me. Like, you don't know all the cameras are on you, and you like, what statement are you making? Like, how is that going to help you at all? Even if you're disappointed to go to Canada or to go to Toronto, or maybe the next pick or the pick before, or whatever, what you had your heart set on, like, it doesn't matter what it is. You're openly disappointed by getting drafted by a team where everyone can see it clear as day. Like, what an idiot, and what a terrible start to your career with an organization.
Yeah, there's been some mixed reviews and interpretation on, was that like a fuck I was drafted, or fuck I was drafted by the Raptors?
What do you mean?
Because I had this, because we're discussing this
disappointed.
actually. Yeah, you
total
think so?
disappointment. How do you would have to do mental gymnastics to take it any other way, man?
I interpreted it that way, and I was in the car with mutual friend Dave Pignota, Dennis Bernstein, and Dave's like, no, I think it's like a gas fuck, like I was drafted. I'm like, no, he clearly doesn't want to be in Canada or Toronto, and he was pissed off about it. But
I don't know how you take that any other way, but I mean, benefit of the doubt for the kid, I don't know, maybe 10%, but that just looked like something that a kid would do, to be like, I want to let people know what I think about this. And just like, what benefit do you get out of that? It's a done deal. You're going there, go make the best of it. But now when I see this kid lace him up for the first time, I'm going to be like, oh, there's that dickhead that doesn't even want to be here. That's going to follow him around. It just doesn't know, if that is in case the fact, which I believe it is, that doesn't know justice, being openly dismayed to be drafted, like at that special moment, to have that negative presence around you. Annoying, man. I rolled my eyes in a big way.
09 Max 22 writes in, Rosie, he swore because he thought he was going to go higher in the draft. And then also Big Homie 89, what a handle. Now, Rosie, it was a misunderstanding. So glass half empty, half full. Yeah. And just to tie a bow on the whole Nikki Glazer conversation too, Rosie, producer Vic, always coming up large for us. Although born in Cincinnati, Glazer spent most of her childhood in Kirkwood, Missouri. So there you have it, the attachment to the St. Louis Blues via Nikki Glazer, who's announcing their pick tonight. Anything else to add before we wrap here?
No, just with that kid, like, wouldn't you drop that if you thought you were going higher when they rattled off the other guy's name, not when they rattled your name off. When they rattle your name off, you go, well, here we go. Let's go do it, and be like, all right, make the best of it. Not, I don't know. I still think I still have my reservations about that situation there, but we'll see what the kid's character turns out to be as he inevitably starts his career with the Raptors.
For somebody who hates the NBA, got some NBA takes, and maybe we start a side podcast, Raptors morning take with Jay Rosehill.
It's a slow morning with the Maple Leafs, man. You gotta talk about what you talk about.
It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know it's a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. A pick, a play I like tonight, if you have a chance to bet on the draft. Second overall, I know there's been speculation, Michael Misa. I'm going to go with Anton, don't call me Lundell Frundell, who I think you can still get plus money to go second overall to the San Jose Sharks. So that'd be my play for today's show. You don't have to give me anything. There's not much cooking out there, to be honest.
I just want to look at this kid. Cashon Atchison. Is he a top 15 pick?
I have no clue.
Do you recognize the name?
Prospects are.
I'm watching him on Instagram. I think he plays for the Erie Otters, and there's like a highlight reel of him murdering kids with hits. And now
your guy.
Now he's shit kicking somebody. I like this. I like this kid. Put him out there. Yeah, boy, watch this. Doing. He's got a highlight reel of that, and my buddy sent it saying, "I like this kid." I was like, "I do too." Even though you're gonna
good reviews from the Danford camp, by the way, on your breakdown of one of Ben's fights from a month ago when we had Ben on the show. Remember we showed some of the videos of the hits in his fights. Good reviews from them. They like the way you broke it down. Yeah,
love that shit. All right, well, good luck to this kid. I'm looking forward to seeing him at camp too, and in many of those 6 preseason games, I'm sure he's in. Kind of exciting time to have a stud D-man coming up because our D are not exactly young and spry, and this kid coming down the barrel could help us out, I'm sure.
All right, Rosie, that's going to do it. Again, we're back with you on Monday, the day before free agency, and maybe some stuff leaks out there, but great stuff this week, and enjoy the weekend in the draft, okay?
Yeah, you too. Enjoy the no management draft this year. Maybe you can get on a screen and see the guys calling in from abroad, but I'm sure it'll be fun nonetheless, and we look forward to seeing what happens with the league and the Maple Leafs as well.
I'll show you some pictures from the Peacock Theater. I think they're expecting about maybe 3,000 to 4,000 people, so pretty intimate setting. I think it's going to be cool.
Not bad, man. That's cool. That's fun. I'm sure it'll be a good time, and I'm sure over the weekend there will be some news dropped, and we look forward to Tuesday when everything opens up for real.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. Thank you to Dennis Bernstein for the hospitality, of course, here on site in Los Angeles. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Monday. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.